Today I will make sense of a South Korean dream film called Disappearing Time, a kid who returned. Spoilers ahead. Keep an eye out and fare thee well. Toward the beginning of the film, a youngster specialist meets a young lady named Surin. Surin gets noticeably anxious when the specialist sets up a camera to record the meeting. She requests that she discuss her story all along. Surin begins by saying that her mom wedded Do-kyun quite a while back. Not long after the marriage, her mom died, and from that point forward, Surin has been living with Do-kyun. He is selected to a building site on a rural island named Hwano, so the two have to move to the island. After her mom's passing, Surin has never genuinely been cheerful. She doesn't talk a lot and isn't partial to her stepfather. She is signed up for another school on the island where she has the chance to make quite a large number companions, yet and still, at the end of the day she favors remaining alone. Her stepfather needs to work for the time being as the head of a passage building site. In view of the blasts that occurred during the development, the occupants of the island are taboo from entering the development region. One evening, Surin goes through her telephone and peruses remarks on her blog about a wormhole. At the point when her mom kicked the bucket, Surin needed to take off from the world, and keeping in mind that exploring ways of doing that, she began to acquire interest in wormholes, otherworldly creatures. Thus on, she converses with individuals on the web about such points even on the school's PC. She inadvertently leaves her PC open, which permits her colleagues to peruse her remarks, furthermore, ridicule her. While getting back, Surin meets a kid named Sung Minutes who lives in a halfway house. Sung Minutes acquaints himself and attempts with get to know Surin, however she overlooks him. The following day during lunch, Surin runs over Sung Minutes and his companions discussing her blog on the wormhole. Sung Minutes professes to have entered one more aspect in the wake of understanding it. That day, Sung Minutes follows her behind as she is heading back home. On being called out, he says that he trusts all that she has written in the blog. Out of their common interest in extraordinary cycles, the two become companions. Surin has fostered her own letters in order to speak with Sung Minutes stealthily. They start to utilize it every day to leave each other notes in Surin's journal. Consistently after school, they circumvent town searching for apparitions. In one of such undertakings, Sung Minutes brings Surin to an unwanted wooden house in the backwoods. At the point when time on Earth stops for 10 years. Everyone freezes aside from one. They investigate the house and talk for quite a while, cutting on wax blocks. Surin has begun to go gaga for Sung Minutes. She kisses him unexpectedly, making him bother. At some point, Surin finds Sung Minutes and 3 of his companions wanting to go to the development site to watch the blasts. She goes along with them and the children clear their path through the forest so the adults wouldn't see them. At the point when they cross the wall to the site, one of the children chickens out and runs back home. The other 4 take cover behind a bluff, pausing, however are disheartened when no blasts take place. While strolling through the wilderness, they run over a little cavern. They choose to investigate it and go inside in a steady progression. In the end, they go over a splendid gleaming substance lowered in water toward the finish of the cavern. Surin expects that it is a meteoroid. Sung Minutes willingly volunteers to jump into the water and bring the substance out. On being rescued once again from the passage, what quits sparkling, the children notice that it seems to be an egg. Part of the gang named Taeshik claims that the egg could have a place with a period troll. His granddad had once let him know that on full moon evenings, a cavern shows up in the mountains where the time troll lives. Whoever goes into the cavern will emerge as a more seasoned individual. Different children don't really accept that him since they didn't mature. Surin finds that her clasp, which was a gift from her mom, is absent. She returns into the cavern to search for it as the folks watch the egg. She tracks down her pin, yet in addition sees that the gleaming egg is back in the water. Befuddled, she emerges to see that the egg has broken and her companions are absent. She searches for them all around the wilderness till it gets dull. She is ultimately lost in the forest and needs to remain the evening. The next day a police force searches for the children in the forest. Investigator Ann is made the top of the examination. Before long, the police find Surin oblivious in the forest. Luckily, she is fit as a fiddle. In the medical clinic, the analyst asks her what befell different folks and she tells him everything about the cavern and the shining egg. The investigator and the grown-ups don't trust her story. She even takes them to the wilderness to show them the cavern, yet can't track down it. It is as though it vanished after the full moon night. Then, the criminal investigator is educated that the carcass regarding one of the missing young men, Jae-wook, has been found underground on an ocean side 20 km away from the town. It is uncovered that the reason for his demise was an asthma assault, since somebody needed to cover him underground. The case abandons missing individual to grabbing. Weeks pass after the occurrence, however the other two young men are not found. Without some minutes, Soo-rin transforms into her more seasoned independent self. She, as well, is all around as befuddled as everybody except nobody accepts her when she says reality. At some point, she hears a commotion from outside her home. On checking, she sees a man racing to the forest. She follows him behind and enters profound into the woodland. A few minutes into running, she tumbles to the ground and the man likewise stops. He moves toward her and views at her in interest as Soo-rin freezes in shock. The man represents the initial time and claims that he is Sung Minutes. On hearing his name, Soo-rin emerges from her stunned state and takes off crying. She winds up before Do-kyun's vehicle and quickly informs him concerning the man. The police are educated about the occurrence and they begin looking through the forest to look for the man, expecting that he is the hijacker. Analyst Ann gets some information about the man and she uncovers that he was professing to be Sung Minutes. The cops don't track down the ruffian yet they get their hands on Soo-rin's journal that she and Sung Minutes used to leave notes for one another. On seeing the pages, she is astounded in light of the fact that they are loaded up with Sung Minutes' notes. Utilizing their code language, he has expounded on all that occurred after she went into the cavern to get her beret. The folks become inquisitive about what is inside the egg, so Sung Minutes breaks it on the ground. Without sitting tight for Soo-rin, to their failure, it ends up being vacant. At the point when Soo-rin doesn't return for some time, Sung Minutes goes inside the cavern and sees that she has frozen in her place. He attempts to converse with her and move her, however she doesn't answer. Minutes after the fact, he sees a drop of water suspending midair. He emerges from the cavern and looks upwards to see the birds have additionally frozen in the air. The young men go to the town and see that everybody, including their families, have stopped. This causes them to understand that time has frozen for everybody with the exception of them three, meaning that they can do anything they need. For the initial not many days, they are large and in charge. They eat and drink anything that they like, rest at whatever point they need to, and play around the whole day. Following a month or somewhere in the vicinity, they get exhausted, so they choose to leave the island and go to another city to check whether they are really the main individuals on the earth who can move. In any case, their arrangement is ruined when they understand that the water in the sea has additionally halted streaming, and that implies that the boat will sink. Back in the present, Soo-rin registers that the one who moved toward her in the forest was Sung Minutes. Truth be told, she quits perusing as now moving the police away from him is her primary goal. On the off chance that they find him, they will clearly capture him for being the criminal, so she asserts to have lied about seeing anybody in the wilderness. The police accept her and she keeps perusing the diary. Numerous months after the fact, the folks begin to live inside a tent in the shopping center. Jae-wook's well-being deteriorates continuously on the grounds that he has asthma and his inhaler stops working. One evening, he suffocates and gradually dies before his companions. Sung Minutes and Tae-shik are crushed. With crushing sadness, they cover their companion's cadaver under the ground on a close-by ocean side. In the wake of kicking the bucket, Jae-wook's body additionally stops like the others. 5 years pass yet the world continues as before. The folks have now developed into young people. Despite the fact that they have been living in disengagement for such countless years, they actually trust that sometime in the future, the world will return to typical. Sung Minutes accepts that when they turn 20, their time will continue. They take a tad of cash from everybody to be rich when that occurs. In any case, in any event, when they turn 20, nothing changes. They gradually start to lose trust and begin to reside in the wooden house in the wilderness. At some point, the seclusion defeats Sung Minutes. He shouts and hollers for everything to stop. Tae-shik witnesses this from a remote place and loses all expectation. Occasionally later, Sung Minutes sees that the moon's shape is changing, implying that the world is going to be continued. He goes searching for Tae-shik, however doesn't find him anyplace. He looks for him all through the island and in the long run arrives at the last bluff. There, He finds Taeshik's garments on the ground and registers that his companion has. He likewise hops behind Taeshik if all else fails. In any case, at the exact second, the world resumes. He emerges from the water and is entranced by the moving nature. In the wake of perusing the diary, Surin rushes to the wooden house, lastly sees her companion. They choose to recount the story to the world yet are uncertain, assuming anybody will trust them. In the meantime, CCTV film shows the police that Sung Minutes is in the forest. They accept he is the kidnapper. Around evening time, Sung Minutes comes to Surin's space for consistent reassurance. Since he has been living alone for so long, he is terrified he will hurt himself. To dispose of the aggravation, the following day, Taeshik's folks show up at the building site faulting Do-kyun for their child's vanishing. They accept that the blast in the site murdered their child, and Surin is making up stories to save her stepfather. In the meantime, Surin and Sung Minutes go to the halfway house that Sung Minutes used to remain in. Surin makes sense of everything for the superintendent and comes outside to call Sung Minutes. Nonetheless, she is hauled away by her dad right then. At that point, Sung Minutes moves toward his mom like superintendent and tells her beginning and end he used to do as a youngster. She is stunned, however she actually doesn't trust him. Do-kyun locks Surin in her room around evening time, yet Sung Minutes enters through the secondary passage. Furthermore, liberates her. They take off from the house to conclude what they ought to do straight away. Surin saw a second egg in the cavern. She proposes she involves the egg and returns as a grown-up to demonstrate to the others that Sung Minutes is honest. Nonetheless, Sung Minutes is against the thought since he knows that living in isolation is so troublesome. He would prefer to be named a ruffian than let her go through what he felt previously. Years, Do-kyun sees that his little girl is missing and figures she went to the wooden house later. Tracking down an image of her and Sung Minutes on her telephone, he goes there around evening time, assaults Sung Minutes, and attempts to take Surin back home. In any case, Sung Minutes takes him out and takes off with her. The following day, the police explore the wooden house and accept that the criminal is controlling Surin by causing her to accept he is Sung Minutes. The report about Surin's vanishing is on the television, so the police before long view as the two. A pursuit results among them and the police when Surin hands herself over to save Sung Minutes. Prior to isolating, she requests that he meet her at the cavern. Analyst Ann attempts to make Surin comprehend that the kidnapper is deceiving her, however she doesn't trust him. She comes up with a rationalization of needing to go to the restroom and takes off to the cavern. She brings the gleaming egg out and hands it to Sung Minutes, yet he won't return it to her since he doesn't believe that she should utilize it. He is going to hand himself over and assume the fault for killing his companions. He takes off into the forest as Surin follows him. Simultaneously, the police show up and pursue behind. They stop toward the finish of a bluff. An official gets Sung Minutes and drives Surin over the bluff simultaneously. The investigator helps Surin yet winds up draping off the bluff with her. Sung Minutes attempts to save them, yet before he can, the two of them fall back. To save them, Sung Minutes breaks the egg once more and stops time. At the point when Surin awakens a couple of moments later, she is on the ocean side with the investigator. She understands what Sung Minutes has quite recently finished. Despite the fact that it has just been a second for her, for Sung Minutes it probably been one more 10 years. She is then brought back home. While having supper, she is sorry to her dad for all that she has done and calls him father. Interestingly, the criminal investigator comes to ask how they endure the fall. Surin doesn't reply, yet he sorts out that she was coming clean this whole time. He proposes she give a misleading assertion to the media and say that the hijacker had controlled her. Along these lines, individuals who are blaming her for killing her companions alongside the hijacker will be refuted. Surin is at long last done recounting her story to the specialist. She is passed on staggered subsequent to paying attention to everything and needs to compose a book on it. A few months after the fact, Surin is moving to an alternate city for secondary school. Prior to leaving, she meets the specialist who gives her the book which has now been distributed. En route to the ship, Surin sees Sung Minutes through her vehicle window and rushes to meet him. However, sees as nobody. However, sometime later, the two meet on the deck. The film closes as they gaze at one another. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on the notification, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thanks for watching.